Hi, everybody. My name is John DePietro.
And I'm Bob Zagami with the Camper Report Show.
And on this Camper Report Show, Bob, I'm going to introduce our audience to something they've never seen before. It's a gigantic, when I say gigantic, I mean gigantic travel trailer that cost around $800,000. You've never seen anything like this.
You're not going to pull it with your little Volkswagen either, DePietro.
No, no,
So,
no.
and I've got the Bennett's coming back for a short visit. They've recently done two blogs on their experiences with Thousand Trails, and we're going to talk about Thousand Trails and the membership with Julie and Mark Bennett.
Great. Those stories plus all the news of the week. Where do we get that news, Bob?
RV Business with Rick Kessler and Woodall's Campground Magazine with Ben Quiggle.
Okay, we'll be back with those stories plus the news right here. Where, Bob?
On the Camper Report Show.
Stay with us, everybody. And welcome back to the Camper Report Show. My name is John DePietro. His name is Bob Zagami. And Bob, you know what? We're going to talk facts and figures on this show because there's a lot of new stats that were just released this week. Some are surprising, some are kind of expected. But, you know, one of the first stories is about what's going on in Elkhart, which is certainly the RV manufacturing capital of the world, not just the United States. Talk about some of the unemployment figures that you've seen just released.
Yeah, it was very interesting when you think about the industry, and it's a little bit of a downslide right now, and wholesale shipments were down 50% in January, and yet the Elkhart County unemployment rate dropped to 3.8%. That's extremely low given the dip in the RV figures, but it's dropped down to 3.8 from 4.9% in January. So there's still a lot of activity.
Okay. You know what? I never really did good in statistics in college. Okay. But what you're telling me is that sales are down, but the unemployment's dropped. But I look into that report a little bit further, and I look at the fact that there were 188,000 people involved in the RV industry, working in some aspect of the RV industry. That number dropped to 116,000. So 188 to 116. I don't care how you paint it. The number of people that are manufacturing RVs is down, which means they're either making less or the same people are doing 5 jobs. So, you know,
well, it may, one of the things that it could be is that a lot of the supplier companies and large distribution companies have built new warehouses in the Elkhart area. So when we look at the number of people in the workforce of the RV manufacturers, that's down. But what it tells us is they're able to find employment in the Elkhart area again, whereas in years past,
okay, that's true.
unemployment could scoop up to 9 or 10%
You know
because
what?
there wasn't someplace else for the people to go to work,
That is
which is
true.
good for the industry overall because they're building an infrastructure to allow them to deal with the ups and downs of the manufacturing process.
Good point. So we're on a little bit of a slide, but you know what? A slide is not really that much of a deal when you figure those years of just a couple of years ago where they were manufacturing record numbers. And we were right here on this show talking on a weekly basis saying the numbers for the prior year period are up 120%, up 150%, up 180%. So the reality is we're really right sizing as opposed to downsizing.
Yeah, I think so, till the next trend comes, and they do very well when they normalize with that. The quality goes up a little bit. They're slowing down the manufacturing process, and they're building better units. So that's a good sign. And on top of that, we got a report from the RVIA, which is the Manufacturers Association, about RVs and who's buying these RVs now. And there's a dramatic shift if people aren't watching. And I think the most important item I picked out of there was that the average age of an RV buyer now is down to like 32 years old.
Yep.
I mean, that's unheard of when you look at the history of the RV industry. And we're moving along as fast as the industry's moved on. That's a tremendous drop in young people and what they're dying. What are they buying? And the average price of an RV retail $92,415. So
You know
the
what?
industry is still rolling along. It may be slowing down a little bit, but there's a lot there.
I hate to be the negative Nelly on this, but when I got into the RV industry just about 20 years ago, not into the industry part, but as a consumer, at man, what was it? I was like just 50 years old. And I was the baby in the group. Now,
Years, yeah.
because they were retirees, there were people that were ready to hit the road when they retired at 65 years old. And now what you're telling me is that number is cut in half.
No,
You know what?
Half of 50 is 25, John. We haven't gone quite that far down.
Right.
You know.
I'm talking generationally here now, so that
Yeah.
we're but the point that I'm trying to make is I agree that it's gone down. I don't know if it's gone down that far. And if it's gone that far and the median price has gone up, you know what? But there's another statistic. Okay. And as we look at reports, and this report is put together by our friends at RVIA, I don't know what company they use to gather the data, but one of the facts that kind of shocked me, it said reasons for buying an RV. And the number one reason, with 39%, drum roll please, is wanting a place to stay while working.
Well, it didn't surprise me because with the median age being 32, they're right in the prime of their employment in any kind of a career. And that employment has changed to a balance of in the office or virtual, and that virtual lets them go out and work someplace else. So the whole methodology of work has been transformed. And this kind of goes along with that. So if you got a median age of 32, you got a median household income of $80,000. So you possibly have two people working.
Yeah.
But they have the benefit of working for the road. So it's driving people who would not normally have purchased an RV to purchase an RV with the intent of working, and then finding out all the other benefits of touring and the family values and things that you can do.
Sure.
And right behind it, 34% was they bought them for road trips. People, they just, the tenor of the company, we got 60-70% of the population that says they're not pleased with the direction that the country is going. Forget whether you're Democrat or Republican. That's not a good number. So they want to do the things that are going to benefit their family life in their own circle of influence and their own friends, and they're going to get out and see the country. They're going to do the things on their free time that they weren't doing before.
So the reality is RV doesn't necessarily stand only for recreational vehicle.
No,
we got to figure out a new way. Because when we look at the number of people that are hitting the road, in their 30s with young kids or no kids, the interesting fact is still says 70% of the audience is married. So you probably got this young couple that have watched their parents get pushed aside by a company after 35 or 40 years. And they're saying, that ain't going to be for me. So they're hitting the road now. And so many of the RVers that we have interviewed over the past several years on our RV shows, they're people that said, we're going to hit the road for the summer, but 3 years later, they're still on the road.
Yeah.
And whether it's homeschooling or working on the road.
I think you'll see that increase because that 39% that said they wanted a place to stay while working is up 17% from last year. So, and I'm sure it's way up from the year before that because people realize, being virtual for a corporation has many benefits. One of which is you can be virtual wherever you want.
And benefits for the company. They don't have to. Yeah. Benefits for the owners of the company as well because they don't have to provide the office facilities that they used to have.
Yeah, and the other thing that hasn't been really talked about a lot in the RV industry, 29% of them cited the desire to overland or boondock off the grid, not go into the campground, not doing what your mother and father did, not doing what your grandmother did, sitting around the campfire. 29%. So the industry has to start to look at that because you don't hear the word overland that much. We do have some manufacturers now who are making overland trailers that are geared to be out in the wild,
Yep.
great solar panels, great lithium batteries to be on, boondocking. So you're going to hear boondocking, you're going to hear overland more, and that's another generation of campers coming up.
Yep. Although it is important to also to note for our campground friends that the number one place that they wanted to travel to was 30% with campgrounds. The others are growing, but campgrounds are still number one. The other
Absolutely.
interesting aspect of that road trip thing is that people are staying longer on the road and not just doing the weekend trip. So very, very interesting. It'd be interesting to see, and probably says it somewhere, how many people participated in that survey, because if you have a small number, a little bit of change can skew the percentages. But we'll have to call our friend Karen Redfern at RVIA and find out more about that. Maybe have her on sometime to talk about these new trends in light of, the new economy. So
it's going to open up a lot of new eyeballs to the industry and what's behind the industry and what's behind today's buyer. Absolutely.
And more campers today. More and more people are hitting the road as single-sex parents, not parents, that's not the right word. They're going on their own, whether they're going with a husband, it still said 70% were married that were buying RVs, but a whole bunch of people are going on the road, either men by themselves or a man by themselves. I'm trying to get to the point of girl camper as my next topic. And
you sure took a long
I
way
sure went around the corner
there
with that. But our friend Janine Pettit was featured in a recent RV business story. And Janine she's kind of a remarkable woman in the story here. We'll put the link down below for the story, because there's stuff in that story that I didn't even know about.
Yeah.
But girl camper is here to stay.
Well, we've been with Janine since day one, just about. We were one of the first industry groups to contact her when she went out on her own as girl camper. And great credit to Jeff Kreider, who does a lot of freelance writing in the industry. This is a tremendous, almost a biography on Janine's activities with the Girl Camper organization that started out with a bunch of ladies wanting to go camping when their husbands didn't want to, or they were divorced, or just never married. They just wanted to camp with ladies and have a glass of wine. And from that small beginning, they've got over 400,000 followers on their Facebook page. They have a quarterly magazine, beautiful full color magazine. They have rallies around the country. They have state directors in almost every state. And it is the premier group for female women, married or single, doesn't make a difference who you are. That's the group that people are going to gravitate toward. And she's built a tremendous loyalty and a following. So credit to Janine Pettit, but again, also to Jeff Kreider for documenting it and having something to really talk about to take her to the next level, because it will not be long before she has 500,000 followers. And I can see the day that she will have 1 million followers. So credit to Janine Pettit and her team. She's got a great team of state directors and staff. It's a real company, it's a real thing. And if you're a woman and you want to know about camping, spend some time on the Girl Camper website and also their Facebook page.
Exactly. And talk about cool stories of people in the industry. We had an opportunity to speak last week on last week's show with Austin Clark from Grand Design. And you know what? Talk about people that are on the rise in the industry. Austin Clark, I mean, you held the camera while I did the interview. He's a pretty sharp person, only just a couple of years removed from college.
Yeah, we started following Austin when he was in college, and he had a summer internship. And we interviewed him and his father, Don Clark, the CEO of Grand Design, outside a tent. And that video almost went viral, had over 13,000 views. And he just keeps his head down and keeps working. And yeah, we pat ourselves on the back a little bit. We had a great interview. You had a great interview with him, and Camper Report was featured in the RV Business and the Woodall's Campground magazine. But they highlighted the fact that Austin was an up-and-coming young man in the business who will be heard from down the road. So great job on the interview, John. All I do is hold the camera.
We'll do something rare in this one, Bob. We'll put a link to last week's show down here. But we did want to mention that, and we wanted to tell people that this is what?
The Camper Report Show.
Stay with us, everybody. We'll be back with those two great features right after this.
Mike here from RV Blogger. Don't waste hundreds of dollars on an external GPS for your RV. All you need to do is download the RV Life app right onto your phone. This app is so cool. It has RV GPS built right into it. So you can load all the specific measurements and weights for your RV. It'll give you directions safe for your RV to follow. And by the way, if you have RV Trip Wizard, directions for your trips upload into this GPS automatically.
Hey everybody, every once in a while in the RV industry, the world, you come across something totally unique, and we have come across something totally unique, and we're going to hear all about it from our friend Jack Johnson from Volta. And Jack, nice to see you again. Last time I saw you, you were in Hershey, and we're talking about some other brands, but you got something totally unique. It's not really a brand, it's kind of a category in itself.
Well, John, this is a spacecraft, and it actually works as a spacecraft. This thing could be put on Mars and probably work just fine. An amazing machine, 55 feet, set up for off-grid living, hauls a state-of-the-art electric vehicle, a new Polestar. This vehicle's got an immense amount of energy, enough to go for a month, designed to charge the EV. It's got 10,000 watts of solar on the roof, 240 volts, split-phase air conditioning, super quiet. Okay. Everything you'd want.
So we've got pictures here of the things that you're talking about. Really, freedom to roam. How long, Jack, can you be on the street without having to hook up to power or water?
Well, if you got sun outside, it's designed to be a month.
A month. Okay. Water?
Water for a month. 485
how much
gallons.
What are you talking about?
This is 485 gallons of fresh water.
Okay.
So the customer wanted to be able to get through a month of dry camping for their design requirements.
Okay. And it says 10,000 watts of solar. It's a lot of solar, because I've got solar and I think I have 150 to 200 watts.
Yeah, you got this thing got 10 times that.
10 times. So power without compromise. Let's see the system over here, because I would imagine it's complicated more than the average person can understand. Is that right?
We hopefully not make it complicated. That's our goal. I mean, electrification is everything, right? The world's been talking about it for a long time. Our goal is to make things easy. And what you're seeing in that big black box, all the complicated stuff is inside there. Those are 27 kilowatt hours each. So there's 4 of those. So there's 440 pounds each. That'd be like 9,000 amp hours in 12 volt world.
And how did this relationship between Volta and spacecraft begin?
Well, spacecraft, they're a small innovative builder down in Missouri. And they're always pushing the limits in technology, and the goal for them is, if you can dream it, we'll build it. So unlike the mass-produced motorhomes, they'll do custom builds. And so their customers are the first ones going, hey, I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be off-grid. And so working with their team, we started building things about 7 years ago. And this is the biggest unit we've built with them.
Quiet powers, really, because I was inside there, and I did not hear any of the air conditioner noise that you usually hear.
Yeah, no AC noise. And did you notice the heated floors were on too?
I did not notice that, because we're in Florida.
Well, they're trying to get the heat to show how much solar they can produce. The heated floors are on, all 3 ACs are on, and it's still putting over 1,000, 1,500 watts continuous in the battery, so it's not depleting.
That is a good size slide. I think that's the dining slide there. Now, where does this go to, this door?
This is the garage.
Right into the garage.
So this is the garage, and then there's a complete automotive hydraulic lift system. So like the big race car trailers.
Yep.
So you come back, this puts on, and then there's a lift inside that'll put the bedroom up, and then it stores the car in the back.
Underneath. So you don't lose the bedroom when the car's there.
No. The bedroom goes up, and you can see the space there, and there's
that solar.
I think the car's about that tall.
Okay, just like the race haulers.
Just like a race hauler.
Okay, so that solar all slides in.
Yep, right. Solar on
when
all
you're
corners,
on the highway.
all the way around. That slides in one button. They all come in together.
Okay, and these are not made for the average person. These are custom.
These are custom built. They're you get on their schedule. Right now they're 2 years out, but they'll build the unit to your desires, your
goals. So that
goals.
person who won the 1.35 billion up in Maine,
They
we
should
should
come
give
talk
him
to
your
me.
number.
They
You
should
can
come
build a
talk.
couple of them for
You
that.
could build several of them.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a sensitive question. Ballpark pricing on this,
For a unit like this, it's going to be in the $800,000 range.
which surprisingly, when you compare the production units that are out there,
And the technology and the flexibility, all integrated, custom built to your needs, it's not unreasonable.
wow. So it's got, this one's set up with 2 bedrooms,
2 bedrooms.
good sized lounge, a big TV.
And the pull-in rig also has bedrooms on it, and it has power generation. So when you hook the vehicle to it, there's a 10,000 watts of power generation on the vehicle itself.
Okay, and you told me that this is set up to put an EV in where it's got an EV charger
It's got an
inside.
EV charger, yep.
So when you talk about energy independence, it really takes it to the
That next,
to the next step.
level, yes.
Okay, we want to thank you so much.
It's good to see you, John.
Have a great day, buddy.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, welcome back everybody to the Camper Report Show, and we got some favorite guests here with us today, Julie and Mark Bennett. Sometimes I say Mark and Julie Bennett, but we'll let Julie go first. So nice to see you guys again. Haven't seen you for a while, but I'm really excited. I saw you post this recently on the blog about California and travel 1,000 trails, and then I went back and looked at the Florida one. So I really want to focus on that. But first, give us an update on your 2 best-selling books, so people that may not be familiar with you know what some of the rest of your background is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, first of all, it's our pleasure to be
Always
back
good to
here,
see you.
Bob. It's always great to be on your show with Camper Report and with Nerve Dish, either one. They're all fun.
And so, yeah, just to give everyone that's watching or listening that may not know who we are, we're Mark and Julie Bennett, and we've been RVing since 2014. We full-timed for almost 6.5 years, and we've been part-timing for the last few years. We're in our 9th year of RVing now, and we have a couple of books that we've written along the way to help make the road easier for others. And the first one was Living the RV Life, your ultimate guide to life on the road. And our latest one is RV Hacks, 400 plus ways to make life on the road easier, safer, and more fun. And they're both very grateful to everyone out there who's bought the books, because they're both bestsellers, and we get a lot of great feedback. They've got over 800 5-star reviews already. You can buy them where all books are sold. But yeah, it's been fun to be able to share all the tips and tricks we've learned along the way with everyone to help make it easier.
And as I like to tell people, both books should be in every RV driving down the road or sitting.
Somebody said that on the back of RV Hacks. There's this guy called Bob Zagami right at the top there.
That's a brilliant quote. I got to get to know that guy.
Only the best. Only the best.
Tell us
about that's a bit about us, and we love RVing and RVing in all different kinds of rigs and different styles of RVing. And so I think that's a big goal for a lot of our travels, is how do we do it differently? And the more we learn, the more we can share that, and how to make it affordable for people, because prices have gone up. Obviously we've seen them go up a lot in the 9 years we've been RVing, but the pandemic and all the COVID prices and the gas prices and campgrounds and inflation, and we're just seeing the cost of everything go up. And so we're always looking for how can we find ways to make it affordable.
Yeah, great writing stuff. It's not too technical. It's not too deep. It's written as if you were sitting around the campfire having some s'mores, and somebody asked a question and you just let it out and talk. That's what I think of when I read your books. That it's very comfortable, and they're very informative on the way that you do that. And that kind of leads us into your blogs, because you also have great blogs on the site. And we're going to put the URLs down below for both the books and how people can find your books, how they can find the blog. But tell us the excitement that's all of a sudden the last couple of weeks with these 2 blogs about California and Florida and 1,000 Trails. And I will say up front, this is not in concert with 1,000 Trails. This is 2 full-time, part-time RVers, their assessment, and what they learned about Thousand Trails in that. So
we are not sponsored by them. They don't pay us to say any of this. Full disclosure, we are affiliate partners of Thousand Trails, but we didn't even know they had an affiliate program. The first 2 years we were writing so much about them just to make it easier, because it was so complicated when we started. And then a little bit later we learned, oh, we've got an affiliate program. We're like, oh, okay, well, if that helps someone and we get a little gift card every now and then, that's great. It helps us with the free content. I just think it's important everybody knows it, but that's never the reason we promote it. It's because we genuinely, I don't know how we would have been able to continue.
And we hear that from so many other people too. And that was actually a big part of our motivation for this trip to California, is because last winter we went on a big trip to Florida. It was 8,500 miles. It was 102 days and
16
states. Big trip, and it was really fun, but it was also a lot more expensive. And so this winter, when we were planning for this trip, we decided, well, let's do a slower pace, a little less distance, and keep our expenses much lower. And so we approached this trip very differently, even though both big winter trips. This trip was 9 weeks and only 63 days. And most all of that was in California. We spent 60 of the 63 days just hunkered down there. And most of all that was actually in Palm Springs. So whereas last year, 16 states.
Down to the Keys.
Yeah, went from Colorado down to the Florida Keys. And on the way back to Colorado, we decided to go to California for a little bit. And
it's on the way.
Just, it's what you have an RV for, right? You just go wherever.
But I do want to just jump in here for a minute, because to Bob's point before, there might be some new people listening to the show, watching this show, that haven't heard before, that you may have heard of Thousand Trails or maybe not, and you don't know what is it that we're even talking about. And we first learned about it back in 2013, when we were just like all the new people out there now, looking and researching, how do we do this lifestyle? How do we afford it? What does it all cost? How much do we need to budget for our RV, for our campgrounds, which are one of the biggest expenses, for fuel, of course, repairs and maintenance. And so we learned back in 2013 about a camping membership company called Thousand Trails, and you buy the membership and it allows you to stay for no nightly fee at their campgrounds, which makes it much more affordable. And back then we bought what was called a zone camping pass, which is the entry level membership. And I think we paid like less than $500 for a year, right? And then we could stay up to 14 nights in a campground. Now, back then, I don't want to complicate things, but back then it was like $3 a night, I think, but they've changed all that. That doesn't exist anymore. Now it's no nightly fee. And then we were doing this for quite a few months, and we bought it before we even bought our RV, because we wanted to book our travels for summer and get them booked in on the system, advanced reservations. So we did that in April, so it's coming up for 9 years. And then we bought our RV, and then we hit the road in June. And we were a few months on the road, full-time, living and working from these campgrounds, and we'd stay 2 weeks in, and then we'd have to get out of the Thousand Trails system for 7 days before we could go back in again. And then we met some other people at a campground up in Oregon, wasn't it? And they said, what do you mean you're full-time and you have this zone pass? Why don't you have one of the other upgrade memberships? And we said, we didn't know there were any, because they didn't have them on their website. They do now, but back then they didn't. And we, did a lot of, I think probably did about 2 months of research, because it sounds a little strange, but it is quite a big investment. But that's why I did so much research to understand what we were getting into, and we ended up making that investment to buy that upgrade membership, which allows us to stay 21 nights at a time in a campground for no nightly fee, and then go straight to another campground without having to spend time out of the system again. So theoretically, you could spend 365 nights a year staying in Thousand Trails campgrounds. They have about 80 around the country of their main network of campgrounds. And then they have some additional campgrounds. Well, how many? About 2?
Well, I've got a friend who's a member of Thousand Trails, and he does spend 365 days a year.
Wow, he's making good use of it.
3 weeks there. And when he was explaining it to me last summer, I had visited with him last summer. It was another one of those situations where you say, why don't more people know about it, and why don't more people have it? Because yes, if you take the whole country, it's expensive. But he says even at that cost, he saves money every year. Yeah. And with the rising price of campgrounds, whether they're private or they're big resorts or even small ones, at least this is a stable price that you can budget and you know exactly what it's going to cost you. Where now you might say, I want to go back to the same campground I went to last year, and you paid $80 last year, and you find out it's $120 this year. So if you're budgeting along the way, what's your take on something like that?
I think it's really popular with people on fixed incomes too. We've found that, you know, because then you know what it is. And even if you think of a campground, even if you like staying at, you know, who doesn't like staying at state parks and county parks? And even if you take some of the really inexpensive ones, let's say $30 a night, which is the really low end of camping prices anywhere, right, in the country, $30 a night would be cheap. And you look at a nightly rate, if you're, say, full-timing, that would be, you know, $900 a month, give or take, right? Now, obviously, if you're staying at regular campgrounds, you get better rates if you're staying for a week or a month. But let's say you're looking at state and county, because I know that's really popular. Well, let's multiply that by 12. Help me out with the math here. Was it 80?
Well,
you're looking at it. Somebody do the math.
Over 10,000, be 10,800. But
a year.
But but in this trip, we were averaging under $10 a night, and that's including our costs for the membership dues, you know, because once you buy the membership, you just have annual dues. And it's really been super affordable. And
our annual dues, just for people that are wondering, are less than $1,000 a year. So because we have the main membership that we pay the annual dues, and then we have an optional add-on called the Trails Collection. And what that is, it's a collection of Encore RV parks, because the Encore parks are owned by the company that owns Thousand Trails, Equity Lifestyle. I don't want to confuse everyone with all the names, but let's just keep it simple, call it all the Thousand Trails Network. We have about 200 campgrounds we have access to. And most of those Encore RV parks, which generally are nicer, a little bit of a step up in standards than the other.
They get closer to the resort designation.
They do get, and they do call them resorts. And I want to say the word resort, and this is something that comes up, like, use it loosely. It's all relative. I think a lot of places, I don't know anyone would call a resort, but that's what they're called. It doesn't mean it is a resort. It's a marketing term in some instances. But we've been to some places that are really kind of rustic that we love as some favorites, and some that are just beautiful. We stayed at one called Marina Dunes RV Resort, and it's right up there off Highway 1 in Monterey. And we were like, what, a half an hour drive from Big Sur and Bixby Bridge, something like that. We went there and had a fantastic night and cooked dinner by the bridge, and it was fantastic. And we paid $20 a night for that particular campground, because there's a handful, maybe 20 of them, that are a little bit more premium parks, and you pay $20 a night. But you could stay at plenty of others. Like we stayed at Sunshine Key, Bob, last year in the Florida Keys. And we paid $20 a night for 2 weeks, $300. It's normally $300 for a night there.
So the thing that's really important is for people to understand that you only pay the membership price one time. Then you're in.
You have annual dues.
Then you pay the annual dues, and you may have some nightly fees. But I've got to believe if you're traveling a lot, that there's significant benefit to having that.
Yeah, if you're a full-timer, it's almost crazy not to have it. If you're traveling more than a few months a year, it's very likely cost effective. So.
When we were full-time, it was a no-brainer. When we went part-time, we did question, you know, is it worth still having it on? And we sat down and did the math, and we said, you know what, we only still need to spend a couple of nights a year.
Well, even on the zone pass, now you get certain areas, because that's how my friend started too. He had a pass for the Northeast, or I think he had two. He had one for the Northeast and one for the Southeast, because he would work down in Florida in the winter, and he'd work his way back up to Maine in the summertime. But
you could change those zones out. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, then you got both of them. And, you know, although you may only be traveling 6 months a year, or even perhaps less as far as the time on the road, the benefit of having membership and being in the club is significant, and he speaks very highly of it.
And we actually recommend that to people, is if you're not sure, if you're in the fence and if you want to try it out for yourself first, a zone pass is a great way to go because it's a really low, it's I think less than $600. They always have a sale going, by the way. Don't ever buy it at full price. They always have a sale. It's either 20% off or 100 off or 150. We recently 175 off. Super cheap, under $600 for the year. And you can add it, you pick a zone. Like you said, Bob, there are 5 zones: Northwest, Southwest, Northeast, Southeast, and Midwest. I think the other one's called, isn't it? It's more in the center. There, most of the campgrounds are on
heart of America, in the middle of
heart of America.
Well, look at
And that's like, there's no contract with that. It's like 1 year. And if you don't want to renew it after the year, you just let them know. I know this sounds crazy. Just send them a letter in writing snail mail, then it's all covered. It seems to work better that way. But then any level of membership, including that entry level, like the trails, the zone pass, you can add on the optional trails collection. So let's say you get a zone pass and you've got 23 campgrounds in your zone, right? You can add another zone for, what is it now, 60?
90.
It's 90, is it?
Mm-hmm.
So less than $100 to add an extra zone, which almost doubles your number of campgrounds. And then for another 370, Mark just updated. They just had a price increase. Mark just updated the blog post about it, so he knows the numbers. And that gives you access to another 100 plus. So you're talking at, nearly 200 parks that we have access to around the country. And
so we're going to run out of time here soon. You know, the three of us could talk for 5 hours. So
I can talk for 5 days about this, actually.
Doing that. Yeah. So you have these 2 blogs. One is all about 1,000 trails in California, and that talks about 25 parks. And the one before that was all about 1,000 trails in Florida, 40 plus campgrounds. Is it safe to say it would have been a lot more difficult even trying to plan a trip like that if you didn't have 1,000 trails?
It'd be a lot more expensive.
It'd be a whole lot more expensive. And it's also, it is easier with that too, because you can just go into one platform and do all your booking within that system. And there's no charge for booking. Because if you're going to all private parks, you have to go to all separate websites, and a lot of them require down deposit for your reservation, and they will charge you even if you cancel. And so a lot more complicated. So whereas if you do all of your booking within that same network of campgrounds, you get to see way more of them at once, and you don't have all the costs. So it is definitely more, because you can also see all your bookings at once in one location too. So, and
I think one of the questions people say a lot is, well, can I get a reservation if I have a camping membership? What if I can't get in and if it's full? And that's a really common question and really common concern. And I think for the last few years, that's the case with all campgrounds. Not just 1,000 trails. I think one of the challenges, and there are, like everything on the internet, you'll find lots of people complaining about things. My theory is the people that are having a good time and making it work are too busy out there having fun and having a good time to sit behind a computer screen and complain. But we, like Mike said, we move and cancel reservations, change our dates all the time. We don't have to call anybody. We can if we want to. We can do it online. We don't get charged fees unless it's too close to the arrival date. You've got a couple of days, I think, before. It's just easier. But you try with, how Florida, how popular that is in the winter. You try going to any campground in Florida, calling the week or the month before and say, hey, I want to get a week or 3 weeks here. They will literally laugh at you.
They are taking reservations now for 2024, and there are people complaining now that they cannot get a reservation in 2024 in Florida.
Amazing, isn't it?
It is.
And that's but a lot of those people will cancel as well. They'll book it so they're not and life happens.
Yeah. All right. Our guests today are Mark and Julie Bennett from RV Love. I'd love to continue the conversation, but they might cut up the video in places that I don't want them to cut it up. So any closing statement for our fans? We're going to talk about the books. We're going to talk about the blogs. We'll put all of that information down so they can, if they don't follow you, hopefully they'll start following you.
Come and find us at rvlove.com. We've been writing about RVing since 2013 and been writing about 1,000 trails since 2015. So we've got over 900 nights in the Thousand Trails camping system now. We've seen the good, the bad, the ugly, and we report on it honestly. And we love answering questions, and it's great to put them in the blog and read the comments too. There's a lot of great information from other other members. So yeah, we love helping people and answering questions, and just do your homework. That's my advice. Do your homework. Don't just go and buy without doing your homework.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it. Always a pleasure to have you on, and we'll catch up to you down the road.
Thank you so much, Bob.
See you.